Welcome to the intro of Palmistry. In this video, we're going to discuss some very basic principles of palmistry, which is the art of reading the hands. We're going to discuss why it can be so accurate, why it can be very personal, much more so sometimes than any card system or any other set system that is not necessarily catered to the individual. So we're going to somewhat demystify palm reading, not to any great extent, but we're going to break it down a little bit and explain how it is so accurate. Why are these lines and mounts and shapes of the hand, why are they the way they are? And it's all quite simple. Our nervous system runs throughout our entire body, sending electrical impulses all over the place up to the brain. And the soles of the feet and the palms of the hand specifically are two very sensitive areas of the body in which there are vast amounts, a mass of nerve endings, particularly the mounts in the hand. So the areas just below each finger on the side of the hand, and the area composed of just below the thumb and of that left part of the hand. These areas in particular, these mounts, are just clusters of nerve endings, which means much information is going back and forth between these mounts in our brain. Essentially the entire body. And so it is very much the same with the lines. They are connected to the body. So the hand is connected to the arm's connected to the torso, and so the whole system is connected. So any signals that our brain is picking up, receiving or transmitting, can be seen in the hand. And because of this, because of the vast amount of information that is there are so many details in the average person's hand. The average person's hand is going to show us so much about them that they may even not be aware of. So it is essentially almost like looking at the zodiac wheel of astrology, but perhaps even more individual. And rather than just planetary and star constellation influences over us, this is an exact copy of information of what is going on with our life, past, present, and future. So now the left hand, before I go into that, there are different schools of palmistry, depending on what culture we're basing our studies from. So there are more like Indian-based Vedic palmistry. There's also a European palmistry. And there also seems to be a more modern, perhaps Americanized, or just a more modern rather than traditional palmistry. So studies I have been most exposed to have been European, because it can be hard to get a hold of legitimate Vedic teachings on palmistry. That is not usually something widely available, especially if you're living in the United States. So in this more European traditional style of palmistry, the left hand is more considered the past, or rather more of what we are born with, what has kind of been written as our destiny or fate. And then the right hand will then show more of the present, how we have kind of either gone along with the destiny, the fate, or perhaps how we may have created changes. Because every little choice can have a ripple effect. Every little choice may be a deviation from a path that we were on. So change is constantly being made. And for this, because of this, the lines in the hands do change over time. And that seems to be an important note, especially if you're just getting into palmistry, just learning about it. So rather seeing a line or a mark or anything on the hand and getting too attached to that, we need to understand that it is liable to change over time, especially if we become more consciously aware of ourselves and learn more about the body, mind, and spirit. Changes are bound to occur within the hand as well. Because again, the hand is just showing us the changes that are happening internally, externally, things that we may not even be able to see. One really beneficial aspect of palmistry is that it can show various diseases, illnesses, even sometimes accidents, various different types of health ailments, not just physical, but also mental and spiritual. The body is often aware of these things, sometimes years before symptoms ever manifest, sometimes years before it's actual an issue, something that is detrimental or affecting us. The brain and the body are so sensitive that they are aware of these things, oftentimes way ahead of when they actually manifest. So this is a wonderful way for us to get warnings about potential occurrences in the future. And this way, what I love about palmistry is that we're not doomed to whatever fate is written on our hands. We are able to change those things. We are able to make changes with the body, the mind, the spirit, and then we will see those changes take place within the hands as well. So a little bit just about the shape of the hand, which sometimes is even a separate branch of the lines and the mounts, or specifically the lines. But the overall shape of the hand is very individual to our life, our hobbies, the work that we do. Because we use our hands for so much, they tend to take on the shape of whatever they need to best adapt to our environment and again to whatever actions we are putting them through. A lot of times the hands will also reflect usually a combination of our sun, moon, and rising signs in our birth chart of astrology. We will see that element, whatever our dominant element is often shown within the hands, the shape. And sometimes people can have a mixture of elements, so it can be a little more difficult to detect which may be the dominant, but it is definitely there. So there's this very interesting relationship between astrology and palmistry. Because as we get into it deeper, all of the mounts are named after planets. And even the individual flanges, the sections of each finger, is oftentimes connected to a certain planet, or rather a sign. So definitely a strong connection here between these external macrocosmic influences and the individual body, the mind, and the spirit. So otherwise, it's just a very interesting method or medium of divination. And so we can see much more than meets the eye. But again, we are not doomed to that which we see. If there is a sign that shows an illness or a disease or this or that happening, many times we can work through that. We can become more conscious of it, and we can learn to make changes. Specifically regarding the liver line, which connects to our digestion. A lot of times it's just a matter of becoming more consciously aware of what we're eating, what we're putting into our system, and learning to take better care of ourselves. If we become more consciously aware of the body, the mind, and the spirit, we learn to reach our full potential rather than just getting by or steadily declining as we age, wearing down the system. We learn to optimize everything. We learn to prolong it and to have quite an extraordinary life rather than just a dull one or a life of suffering. Because even we can learn from suffering. Even if we cannot prevent a disease or an illness or an accident, we can at least learn from that and perhaps prevent it from happening again. So repetition is an important aspect of palmistry. We can look at something and see patterns in the hands, and then we can learn how to change those patterns. So it's all about coming back to the self, coming back to our true nature and learning who we really are, being our best version of ourselves, no matter where we're at on our path. And palmistry just really helps us to do that. Sometimes more than the other mediums of divination, because it's our hand we're looking at. It's not a map of the stars. It's not a deck of cards, that somebody else created. It's our hand, our nervous system, our body, our mind, our spirit. So it all comes back to the self. And this all helps us again to reach our true potential. That is one of the blessings of palmistry.